You know, it seems like you don't hear too much from Optimist, right? And when you do, they tend to be the butt of the joke.
Always look on the right side of life.
But Monty Python aside, in the real world, there's a lot to be cynical about. You got your war, terrorist attacks, global warming, total economic collapse, recession, depression, oppression, the Jonas Brothers. It's all too much to bear. So is there any hope for us? Well, this guy says yes, and he is set out to redeem the good name of optimists everywhere. His name is Laurence Shorter. Laurence is a Scottish broadcaster and comedian who spent a year tracking down the world's most positive thinkers, trying to find out their secrets. Guys like Richard Branson or Desmond Tutu, or a rabbi that surfs, and of course, the ever-elusive Bill Clinton. Laurence crisscrossed 4 continents trying to talk to them all, and it wasn't easy. He's got a brand new book, and guess what it's called? The Optimist. One man's search for the brighter side of life. That one man is Laurence Shorter. Welcome, man. Real pleasure to see you. You know, we could sort of spin the roulette of things to talk about. Surfing rabbis, pessimistic dads, Obama and hope. Let's start with the Obama thing.
Obama. Well, what I love about Obama is he's obviously going to let us down in the end. I don't want to be counterintuitive, but the great thing about Obama is he showed us what I always suspected to be true, and the reason why I started writing this book is that I believe that deep down, whatever's happening, we are desperate for optimism. Mm-hmm. It's a human right. We long for it. And what Obama did was he gave us permission for one glorious week, month, day to feel, wow, that sense of hope. And that sense of hope, for the moment, seems to reside in him. Mm-hmm. But soon that's going to change. Politics happens. He's just one guy, for all his wonderful abilities. But I think the wonderful thing about that is that hope is ours. It belongs to us. It's inside us. And no one can take that away from us.
Is hope different than optimism to you?
It's a good question. This was Desmond Tutu's point when I...
You got into a fight with Desmond Tutu.
Yeah, and it was all about hope and optimism. I was... So thanks for bringing up the painful past.
I don't know many people who've got into it with the Archbishop, but you have.
Yeah, it was all like this. I had flown all the way down to South Africa, to Cape Town to meet him. I wasn't even sure of getting a meeting with him, but I was really going for it.
You were optimistic.
I was optimistic. And I came there with my love interest, which is an important part of the book, and my doomed and tragicomic affair.
I don't want to give it away how it ends for him. I'm just going to say doomed is a good word. But anyway.
Another story. And of course, very important for me to meet with Tutu and also to impress her. In front of a crowd of his admirers and followers in a cafeteria in Cape Town, I introduced myself as, I said, hello, I'm the Optimist. I've come to meet you. He said, I am not an optimist. I am a prisoner of hope. And from that moment, and I said, but surely, Archbishop, surely you're an optimist. We're talking about the same thing here. He said, no, I am not an optimist. Optimism, when times get tough, flips too easily into pessimism. If we had just been optimistic during the apartheid era, in those years, those decades when there was no hope, whole decades when people were interned, when people were tortured and disappeared, if we'd just been optimistic, we would have given up. Mm-hmm. We would have given up years ago. No, what we have is hope. And despite the public humiliation of being disagreed with and told that my quest was pointless in front of all these people and that I should actually give up, stop writing a book about optimism, go home and think about hope, I persevered. And I took what he said seriously about hope, and I believe that is part of what a true optimism is.
But like many awkward situations, did you have to still drive him home and you couldn't talk to him or something?
Actually, what was wonderful was that he drove me home.
He drove you home?
Yeah. And this was a surreal moment when I stepped into his BMW with him at the wheel, my girlfriend in the back.
Wicked.
And I thought, is this really
Was
happening?
it a 3 Series or a 5 or 7? Do we know what kind of vehicle it was? This is an important distinction for me, Shorter.
I was way too overexcited to notice. It had a satisfying clunk when you closed the door. That's all I can tell you.
He gets you in the car and he just says, don't talk.
He said, oh man, what am I doing with you here? No talking. But I'm a brutal and persistent interviewer. So I kept him going, and he actually drove me to his office, and he was extremely generous. And what happens to Desmond Tutu when you actually get him one-on-one, when he's not performing in front of, he's a stand-up comedian, really.
It's funny, eh?
He's a funny guy. But when you're one-on-one, then the real heart comes out.
The thing, the quest to be optimistic came from somewhere in you. And I know a lot of people who are watching battle, we all do. We all battle with the idea of hope or optimism because we're not designed, I don't think, intellectually, or more importantly, I don't think as humans we're emotionally designed to deal with the kind of world we've created. The sort of stimulating, the false hope, the lies of music in Hollywood, that life's going to be okay. So I don't think we're intellectually and emotionally designed to deal with that. But that's why optimism and hope are so important. I wondered for you, why you went this way. In your book, you talk a lot about your old man. Your dad seems like that guy who was almost worse than Tutu to you.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, Tutu's a paragon of optimism compared to my father. My father and I lived together. This is I was 35 years of age, like all young men of 35 living with their parents. But there we were, the optimist and the pessimist, stuck in this kind of duality. And I think that this, at the time, I was obsessed with trying to convey my optimism to him, to cheer him up at times when he felt down. And I thought, there's nothing harder than trying to make someone optimistic. It's almost impossible. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to find reasons to be optimistic. I'm going to find impressive, famous, good-looking people who can tell the world that it's okay to be optimistic. And then finally, I'll win the argument with my dad.
Nice. Dude, that's what life's all about, right?
Exactly.
Proving your dad wrong. Mick Jagger, Bill Clinton, Richard Branson, they're all a part of this. Did you determine that they were optimistic?
Did I decide I was going to meet them because they were optimistic?
No, did you figure out at the end of it all that they were optimistic?
Yes and no. I think what I learned about optimism is that ultimately the most impressive optimists were those who are actually realists. And for me, the real emotional journey of the book, and believe it or not, I asked, and without knowing, I asked for this to be an actual emotional journey, and it turned into a real roller coaster. But the real learning was that to be truly optimistic and happy, you have to face reality, and you have to accept it moment by moment what's happening. And so the people who really impressed me were the people who'd lived through really appalling, terrible things, and they had learned a kind of incredible joy and lightness.
I think the part of the book that got me the most, got me right here, was the rabbi.
The rabbi.
The surfing rabbi.
Yeah.
There's one particular rabbi talks about surfing and how surfers seem to have figured life out in a way.
Yeah. Well, surfing rabbi was amazing because I came to the rabbi, this was towards the final part of my journey. I was in a pretty bad state by that time. The love of my life had emigrated to India. She didn't believe in commitment or relationships, so I was still holding on with all my optimism. I was going to make it happen.
I have another word for optimistic. I call it lying to myself. Right?
There you are. Yeah. So I was very good at that. And there I was in California. I thought, if only I can go far enough in that direction, away from her. She's in India. Maybe I'll forget about her, and then she'll want me. That was my plan. So then I met the surfing rabbi, and he was like, dude, I don't worry about anything. I don't worry about anyone. And hey, that's the way to go. And I was like, wow, this guy's free. He's free. He does not care about anyone, and that's how I wanted to be. And that's not optimism, but it's a kind of optimism. It's a precondition of optimism. And he had this incredible, stubborn... And I said to him, so do you think about the future a lot? Because you're always talking about the great waves. He said, oh man, yeah, I'm always thinking about the future. I said, because, you know, like the spiritual teachers, they say you've got to live in the present moment. He said, oh, yeah, well, they're spiritual teachers, not surfers. It's obvious.
But I like the way surfers live better rather than spiritual teachers, because surfers, there is so much effort and so much unknown and so little payoff in surfing. You'll wait for 20, 30 minutes for a wave. It may not even be a great wave, but it might be a great wave, and that's okay, because that's living in the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. And actually, in a sense, he really was living in the moment. He was constantly there. He was dreaming constantly. His life was just a dream. And he was all on his own, you know. He was untouchable.
Did you Was it a lot of weed around him? Was he like not that kind of rabbi?
No, I don't think so. He may have been in the past.
It's called The Optimist. That's the book. It's in stores now. You should read it, especially if you're feeling a little down. How did it work out with your old man?
Oh, the amazing thing about this is that it taught me to respect my old man and his realism. And so we get along now in a way which we never could have before. And that's the most optimistic thing that could have happened.
There you go. The book is in stores. Laurence Shorter, man, real pleasure to see you. Thanks for coming in. Stick around, everybody. We got all entertainment when the news is next.